Dr. Venezuela.
Good morning. I'm Dr. Luis Valenzuela, the Executive Director of the Long Island Immigrant Alliance, the President of the National Association of Puerto Rican Hispanic Social Workers, and a board member of the Latino Jewish Council of Long Island. All three organizations urge you to kill this bill in committee. It's unfortunate that we're here urging you to vote against this bill. When residents of a county need solutions to real problems, real concerns, we'd like to think that we can turn to government for real solutions. 1022 is not a real solution. As I said last week, it is a bill that is divisive. It targets Latinos. It does nothing to solve the problem. It fans the flames of hatred. It gives license to animosity against Latinos. People with hate in their heart will take this as a pass to continue to harass Latinos. There are real problems that our residents in Suffolk County have, which beg for real solutions. I urge this committee to vote this bill down, to table it subject to call, and to instead start to think about a process where we can engage all concerned in finding real solutions. Vote this bill down. It does nothing to solve the real problems that we have here. Thank you.
Question.
Yes, Legislator Carrick.
Thank you, Doctor, for coming down again. What do you say to the constituents here that are in the communities, like the gentleman spoke earlier? What do you tell them?
He has valid concerns.
But then Mr. Clappy, who I have to say, Jimmy, is a great guy. I've worked with him for years on this problem, very early on, long before anybody even was discussing this problem. Jim and I were talking about it. When he says, well, we're not going to do a thing by way of philanthropy because government's not going to give us the green light. So what do you say? You're saying, give us a real solution. This doesn't work, and you don't know what to tell these residents who are being adversely affected day in and day out. So the private community who's urging us to do something won't do it, and you're turning your backs on real people and a real problem, in my personal estimation. You know, how do you explain that to the tax-paying citizens of communities that are dealing with it every single day?
Okay, a couple of points. I think that Mr. Claffey is basing his position on his personal experience, but also on national empirical data that clearly states that when work centers are to work, there has to be a public and private partnership. As I said, you know, we look to government to solve real problems, not to create other problems. Unfortunately, I lost what the second point was. Right. Well, what I say to the residents, again, is that I validate their concerns. I have the same concerns that we all have here. You know, here on Long Island and in Suffolk County in particular, there's a lot of economic anxiety, insecurity. We all have issues with housing, health care, pensions. We don't know whether we're going to have a job tomorrow. Everyone is in the same boat. However, the solutions that are being proposed are not real solutions. They're divisive.
One last thing. Having worked on this issue for 12 years, and Legislator Edson knows the community he's been serving now for a year and change. Super duper majority of the residents in our affected area, Medford, Farmingville, Selden, Center Reach, have said, no hiring hall. Do not even think about using my tax dollars for a hiring hall. So you come here saying, yes, we understand there's a problem. We're looking for real solutions. But we're telling the residents where they are truly affected that we don't care what they say. Put a hiring hall in your backyard even though you don't want one. How do you respond to that?
Well, it's absolutely untrue that we are saying to them that we don't care. Again, we validate their concerns. We want to work on solving these problems. I think that the community has a legitimate right to be engaged in this dialogue. I think that government has a legitimate and principal role in working with residents to find solutions. I think that we just can't end a conversation that is so important to the residents of these communities and Suffolk County in general when it gets to that point that we don't want it in our backyard and then walk away from it and start passing legislation that targets one particular group. I think that there is a legitimate and needed conversation with the residents and government.
Sorry, one last. I appreciate you actually gave me an answer to my question, but I'm confused because 1 second out of one side of everyone's mouth you're saying people who are opposed to this are trying to make a difference are racist, anti-immigrant, anti-Latino. I believe you used or one of your colleagues used illegal while Latino, standing while Latino illegal in the last meeting. But then on the other side you say, oh yes, absolutely, we hear the people who are affected, and it's a real problem. Now which one is it? Are they racist, xenophobic, or is it a real problem? Because it can't be both ways. Yes, we all know there's racism in every community. We know that. And we try to push that element aside. Both sides of the fringe, that fringe that, you know, we really don't want to bring into the middle of the dialogue. But which is it? Are these people racist? Are they xenophobic? Or are they legitimate tax-paying citizens with real problems in their community?
I think two things. One, the solution is disconnected from the problem. The other thing is that we live in a probabilistic world. It's not necessary for us to impute intentions to the bills that you propose that we say target Latinos. If the results discriminate against a particular group of people, then obviously it's racist. The Supreme Court has ruled on that very issue.
Legislator LaSquadra.
Thank you. If the results of a particular bill single out any group of individuals who are doing something that is causing a problem, diminishing the quality of life, or acting in a manner that is illegal, I don't see how that's racist, but you and I can differ on that. The one thing that I want to bring up in this, and it's something that we all know, but I don't want the conversation just to be focused on one community. This problem is pervasive. It is throughout the United States, in particular because of our population density, because of a service-driven economy. This problem is particularly significant in Suffolk County, not just in the community represented by these two districts, but I have had this conversation. You say, have the conversation with your constituents. I have had this conversation with my constituents. And at another 7-Eleven in Miller Place, at a Spanish deli in Rocky Point. We've seen large groups of individuals congregate, block traffic, create situations where I have calls to my office where women are uncomfortable getting out of their car. They call my office and tell me this. I am uncomfortable getting out of my car. I don't want to walk past it with my child because I have large groups of men, some of them catcalling at me. I don't feel comfortable in this situation. None of them mention the race, what language they're speaking. They're telling me they feel uncomfortable because of this situation. So I see a solution, something we have in our control, that we can say, we're going to address this problem. And yet, when we go that route, Legislator Caracappa just answered you a simple question: are these people racist, or are they, or do they have a legitimate concern? You didn't answer the question.
Well, I beg to differ. I think I answered the
Sir,
question.
I do not believe you answered the question. I believe you spun an answer and did not give a straightforward answer. It's a very simple question, and you gave a very convoluted answer to a very simple question. Maybe you should be sitting back here with the politicians. My point is, we have a legitimate problem and a legitimate solution to try to begin to address that problem on a local level. Begin to address that problem. I know we don't have all the answers. I know we don't have the solutions. I know we need help from the state and mostly the federal government on this issue. But when we have a mechanism at our control by which we can begin to address this problem, I know I can speak for myself and some of my colleagues. We're going to take it.
Thank you, Legislator. Legislator Noack.
Well, anyway, irrespective of your disagreement with me with respect to my answer in the question, the bill is racist.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to make a comment because I just don't like that word racist, because I can't help thinking a few years ago in my neighborhood, in my downtown, very large groups of young people gathered every night by the 7-Eleven in the local area, obstructing traffic. It became very burdensome to the town, and so the people that live there told their local police departments to stop it. It was large groups of people. It wasn't black or blue or green. It was just obstruction of traffic, and it was burdensome to the town. It's the same kind of thing. It didn't make, nobody called me or nobody came here and said we were anti-teenagers. It's just obstructing the flow of the town. So the word that you used is just it's a little offensive.
Yeah, I don't think that we can equate the concerns that we have with our adolescent population. I mean, it certainly throughout history there's been a prejudice against adolescents that's based perhaps on not understanding their developmental needs and et cetera.
Well, there just were so many of them.
No, I understand.
So we
that.
we in my town needed to try to control it. That's all I'm trying to equate it to.
No, I appreciate that. And one of the things is that there's lack of resources for our adolescents. I mean, study the issues about gangs and all of that. We have all types of data. We have all types of studies that suggest that prevention is rather than it's more effective and cost efficient than some of the remedies that we propose. Similar to this remedy that's being proposed.
Well, thank you,
We don't
Doctor.
have the resources.
Doctor, just one more thing. With your background, obviously, you realize that proactive approaches are much better. But also being a social worker, I just wonder, do you think that name-calling is an effective way to bring people together?
I think that there is no instance that can be attributed to me in saying that I'm name calling.
Excuse me?
I explained to you. Well, I mean, if the results of an action is racist, is it not racist? I mean,
Well, but I'm asking you a question. That I guess what you're saying is that there are sometimes appropriate to call people names. It just does. In my background and my schooling has taught me that is no way. In fact, that initiates more problems and divides people. So that I just would say you have to be consistent with your argument, and calling people names is which is what I heard legislator know respond to is not an effective tool, ever. And I believe you would agree with that.
Again, I think that the bill is racist. The results will support that. I think that if you look at, you know, the history of immigration in the country, and you can go to Benjamin Franklin in 1771, when he wrote a paper with the name something like Observations on the Population, concerned about Germans, concerned about Germans deteriorating the culture, the society, concerned about their complexion. I mean...
excuse me, Doctor. I appreciate the history lesson, but I really just wanted an answer to my question, and we have a lot more people that would like to speak.
Well, I've answered your questions, I think, fully.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Pat Subert.